Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
We were talking of automation, and to carry the conversation forward, let us get to the fundamentals of automation. Like in any other thing, it is important to realize that automation has been defined as any development that may cause employee displacement. Now, the reason why I chose this definition is because this is a popular definition. The popular definition does not necessarily make it a correct definition. Automation is any development which transfers the essential trigger command to certain predefined conditions. That is automation. Which transfers the trigger command to certain predefined criteria. The moment that criteria is met, the next sequential target is initiated as a pursuit target. That it may wipe out certain jobs is a popular misconception. In fact, there is very little empirical evidence to prove that automation causes layoffs, because automation alters the character of the jobs. Therefore, it causes redeployment. And what is more, in certain other sectors, more jobs are created. So, there is no conclusive evidence on this. And there being no conclusive evidence that it wipes out as jobs is perhaps true only to the extent that it applies to the word certain jobs. Yes, certain jobs are wiped out, but other jobs may be created. It reduces the contents of certain jobs, which it does. Remember what I told you in the preceding session, the character of job descriptions change. It could also combine several jobs into one. Examples of automation are automatic machine tools to process parts, that is CNC, industrial robots, automatic material handling, feedback control systems. These examples are fairly self-explanatory and we need to spend time elaborating them. There are different types of automation: fixed automation, programmable automation, flexible automation. And it is not as if these are the only possible types of automation, there can be other types. Fixed automation refers to the use of custom engineered, by that is meant special purpose equipment to automate a fixed sequence of processing or assembly operations. This is also called hard automation. The primary drawbacks are the large initial investments in equipment and the relative inflexibility. GE is 2 million light bulbs. Programmable automation is when the equipment is designed to accommodate a specific class of product changes, and the processing or assembly operation can be changed by modifying the control program. So, there is a technical meaning to programmable automation, just as there is a technical meaning to the other two types of automation. It is suited to batch production. In programmable automation, reconfiguring the system for a new product is time consuming because it involves reprogramming setup for machines and new fixtures and tools. The example is Jacquard loom. Sorry. In flexible automation, the equipment is designed to manufacture a variety of products or parts, and very little time is spent on changing from one product to another. A flexible manufacturing system can be used to manufacture various combinations of products according to any specified schedule. There is the issue of customization. An example is Honda for production of cars and bikes. All that you have to keep in mind is organizations which deal with flexible automation will be designed differently from those which are designed for fixed automation. Fixed automation will give rise to one class of organization, design programmable automation to another kind of organization design, and flexible automation to yet a third type of organization design. Therefore, the proposition that you need to register is organization structure and processes will reflect the kind of technology. Now, for those of you who are interested in supply chain management, you can hardly be an expert in supply chain management without understanding organization structure and processes, because to operate that kind of supply chain management, you need a kind of organization whose nature has to be understood even by the technical hand. A little while ago, I was in conversation with two others who claimed they were interested in supply chain management, but they have a total inability to understand how supply chain management works, where are the triggers of control, and the triggers of control will always be in organizations. So, types of automation, advantages and disadvantages. Let us put it in a matrix form. Automation, we have just noticed, can be fixed, programmable, flexible. The chart talks of when to consider, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages. I am going to leave it on the screen for a while for you to read through, and then I will make some comments. Now, as in each case you read from left to right, you will find that say fixed automation is considered when there is high demand volume, you have long product life cycles. The advantage is maximum efficiency and low cost unit costs, and obvious disadvantages are large initial investment and inflexibility. Now, it is important to understand this matrix because it helps you to register concerns of project selection. If you want to start a unit, what kind of investment capability you have will be a prime determinant to what kind of plant you want to set up. And your selection of the kind of technology for that plant will be up to a point determined by your ability to understand types of automation advantages and disadvantages. So, the whole thing about organization management is the ability to understand interfaces. And in fact, to be outstanding in your own functional choice, a sound basis and insight into the processes of organization management is an absolute must. Now, let us look at the issues of product variety and production volume. On a spectrum of low to high, when it comes to product variety and production volume, high product variety and low production volume will lead to programmed automation. Medium product variety and medium production volume will lead to flexible automation, but high production volume and low product variety will lead to fixed automation. So, this is like plotting a graph to show where programmable, flexible or fixed automation is relevant. There can be many reasons for automation. Shortage of labor of certain type. There may not be an absolute shortage of labor, but there may be a shortage of labor of a particular type. For example, in south of England, there is a shortage of masons. In USA, there is a shortage of nurses. In fact, your best chance for migrating abroad is to pretend you are a nurse. And if you do not get my tongue in cheek comment, of course, I have no use of making that comment. Labor, like money, rushes to fill the shortage points. Flow of capital is always from centers of high concentration of capital to centers of low capital availability. That is a law which applies not only to capital, it also applies to labor. Only thing is that the surplus and the shortage would not be judged on the ethnic dimension. You won't say, we want more Indians to migrate or we want more Bangladeshis to migrate. You would say we want more masons to migrate, and the immigration policy of any state has to do with plugging in the shortage areas or the high cost of labor. White collar labor is not the only pursuit in life. So, if there is a certain type of high cost of labor, then that kind of labor would lead to automation at that level of employment. If there is a shortage of shorthand specialists, then the use of dictaphone will obviously go up, a simple correlation. Increased productivity is another cause for going in for automation. Replicable, reproducible situations. Competition also pushes people towards automation. Then there is safety, reducing manufacturing lead time, lower costs in the long run. So, predictably, if there are certain preconditions when there is a reason for automation, the reverse of that will cause a resistance to automation. If you do not have a shortage at a certain level and you introduce automation, then there will be a resistance. Cost of upgraded labor also leads to a situation where there is a resistance to automation. In other words, the issue of new skills will be a resistance to automation, because automation can only be on predictable skills. Automation can only be on replicable skills. Automation can only be in skills which have got predetermined contours. It will be also a factor of initial investment. Management of process improvements, issues of re-engineering. Adapting organization to a new technology is always a complicated issue. Changes may come in two ways: policy decision to modify objective to get more advanced system of production, and standardization of product. Result of technical and administrative development, which will require a readjustment period and degree of technological potential attained. Both these factors would lead to adapting organizations to new technologies: policy decisions and wanting more advanced systems of production, or results of technical and administrative developments. The impact of technology could be in the form of disproportionate time spent on evaluating technical aspects in comparison to study its effect on organizations. Ways to avoid discrepancies: change technology to adapt to organization structure. We have already discussed that when we were looking at different modes of production. Change organization as per technology, maintain existing organization structure and technology, modify processes. Hence, appraisal of organization structure and study of organizational change must come along with technical changes. I have explained that at great lengths. This does not need any repetition. Studies show correlation between the effect of technical change on nature of production and organization. This also has been explained. More the effect on nature of production, more is the effect on the organization itself. Now, let us look at the impact of automation on industrial relations system. Labor relations dynamics get affected whenever there is a new technology, because as I told you, the nature and the characteristics of the job change. Intense industry competition leads to adoption of technology at a highly rapid rate in order to retain competitiveness. Today, therefore, workers and their unions have direct or vital interest on how the technology is going to be introduced and what will be the range of its effect. Usually, you will find even if a technology is introduced at the bottom of the pyramid, it will affect the characteristics of the job above the bottom level too. That would be a bottom up effect. What shapes the decisions of an employer to invest in automation? What unions impede the diffusion of automation, and to what degree, if any? What impact will unions have on lag between the introduction on commercially available automation and its diffusion in manufacturing? the experience varies from industry to industry. It is very high in certain industries. For example, this question is now almost a moot one in telecom technology. The role of unions there has been reduced almost to less than 10% of the total impact, but it is still very high in certain other areas, in certain other industries. So, this question is only to be answered in the context of the specific industry and in the context of the constancy and the consequences, constancy of prerequisites and consequences of effects. What is the worker's perspective? What will be the degree of displacement? What happens to displaced workers? What proportion will be retained by employers? How many will be laid off? What kind of changes in work rules will unions seek? What kind of changes will unions gain? What will white collar workers seek? Will white collar workers seek union representation? What has happened over a period of time is that these kind of questions have been politicized, and when they have been politicized, you find that they have become a political stick to beat a decision with. The recent example of the agitation with the airport authority when the privatization of Delhi airport came along is a classical example. There were no production issues involved. In fact, the relocation was minimal, yet it became a big issue. And predictably, since it was not backed up by implications for productivity, it could not stand scrutiny. Automation often changes skills requirements, change of responsibility and working conditions. Automation often blurs the distinction between production work and supervisory work. Then there is the question of wage settlement, which is an annual ritual in a lot of the industries, be it especially in the manufacturing sector, even in the process sector. Periodically, wages have to be renegotiated and settled, and the union relations become a very important dimension there. Then you hear of issues of collective bargaining, negotiations, which are essentially human resources issues, and we need to have to get into them here. What is the way out? Collective bargaining. It helps workers negotiate and settle with the employers on reasonable and humane protections for workers against potentially adverse effect of jobs destroying technological innovation. What is being said is technological innovation could have a job destroying effect. As I said, I do not know whether it can be called job description in a large number of cases. It is probably just a question of job redefinition or recasting the job. Collective bargaining can provide cushions to soften the adverse impact on workers by setting up adjustment procedures and programs at the workplace. Applications of new technology should be humane for workers as well as profitable to business. Now, I want you to read this, which is a case study of the Canadian Railroad Network. Such a kind of situation has always caused industrial turbulence. It has been met in different ways. For example, typically in this case, it led to the rise of the railway catering services. An ancillary occupation comes up. So, a subsidiary is created, which is how organizations may be an outcome of an industrial relations issue, which may be rooted in processes of automation or mechanization. Please read this very carefully too, and this is timed. So, this will not be taken away quicker than you are able to read it, but also if you are going to waste time in reading it, then it will go off without your having read it fully. Well, the answer to this may be, maybe not. This kind of envisioning of an industrial future does not always seem to have materialized. Yeah, but it is a theoretical possibility. The purpose is to illustrate to you what is the basic change which automation and mechanization makes in the working of an industry. The key proposition in this whole slide is to draw your attention that technological change is inevitable. You can't get away from this. Technological change is a constant. And if technological change is a constant, organizational redesign is a constant. And if organization redesign is a constant, the nature of evolution of organizations is a fit subject matter for study, in fact, essential for your doing well in any function. You see, this business of management approaching the union before technological change, to my mind, is nothing unique nor out of the way. It is my belief that all stakeholders have to be consulted before any change is brought about. So, consulting the unions, or perhaps an optional phrase would be the workers, because unions are just one version of it. Unions are not universal, nor is there a single union in all the cases. What happens if there are 9 unions? 6 of them not recognized, 3 of them recognized. You can have all types of permutations and combinations. The principle, to my mind, is very simple. The principle is of consultation with all the stakeholders before you take a technological decision. Now, this phrase shows to you the meaning of the word material. The way in which the word is being used, material means significant. It does not mean tangible substance. There are no properties of material here. These agreements emphasize providing long-term service employees with options in the event of new technology which eliminates jobs. 30 years ago, you had two choices, layoffs or severance. Now, there is early retirement, bridging, even paid educational leave. In essence, it is akin to generous but contingent severance packages. The long and short of it is, the character of the industry has changed. And by the time you will be getting back into the job market, it would have changed further. And please remember, the change in the job market has nothing to do with your having gone out of the job market or getting back to the job market. It has to do everything with its own self. Even if you are to continue in the industry, it would have changed. So, what is the conclusion? The company does not have the unilateral ability to introduce technological change, but that adversely affects the working conditions of running trade without first negotiating how adverse effects are to be ameliorated or having the adverse effects subject to arbitration. In other words, consult the stakeholders and create a plan which anticipates the problems and generates the options. These are the two words, anticipates the problems and generates the options. Equally important, however, the running trade unions do not have ability to halt technological change. This is very important. Before you answer the question, what is it that you can do, you have to answer the question, what is it that you cannot do? And what do you mean by you cannot do? That which is beyond your scope. तुसी जो चाहो जी मर्जी कर लो. Now, that is a very powerful expression in Punjabi. You do whatever you wish. Or if you want to put it in King's English or Queen's English more likely, you do your damnedest worst. You will discover that it was not bad enough to stop anyone. And why do it? Your power to do what you can is determined by the power of your not being able to do something. Understand that. It appears a statement which is self-contradictory, it is not. It's like saying, okay, I have a gun and I am going to shoot you. You get to pick where I shoot you, but in the end you will get shot. Whether I shoot in the arm is a fleshy area or internal organ, it is up to you. In other words, the result is who is the casualty of which action. Therefore, there is an obvious impact of automation and education, on education, training and retraining. A very brief reference to this before we will get back to computerization. At various stages in history, changes in workplaces, operations and procedures in all aspects of economy have resulted in changes in education, training and retraining requirements for those employed or preparing for employment. It happened at the time of the Industrial Revolution, it happened at the time of industrial changes, and it happened with outsourcing, it happened with the Y2K bug. The application of automation in manufacturing operations has the potential to trigger widespread changes in education and training. Robots, for example, and other forms of programmable equipment and systems may change the organization of manufacturing process it has, the character of the production line. It has been collapsed into smaller production units. Remember, units. In other words, there is more activity taking around a cluster and it's not linear. you can fix the door of a sedan in the plant and polish it simultaneously. You do not have to finish fixing the doors to start polishing it. It is a question of how you fix the programmable machine. So, the character of the production line changes, and if the character of the production line changes, the character of the job changes. Therefore, it obviously leads to an occupational mix. Now, occupational mix may have to come out of various reasons. This is something which I wish you to register. It is not as operational mix is a fact of life only with automation. If you are running a houseboat and you are a 2-person crew, then the same person will have to welcome the guests, the same person will have to serve the guests, the same person will have to clean the room, whereas the second person will do the cooking, will get the supplies, will do the washing. Now, you can say welcoming, cooking, serving, cleaning the room, tidying the room is an occupational mix. One is a housekeeping job and the other is a room service job. Now, in any hospitality sector, they will tell you housekeeping and room service are two different things. Not so in this case, and it has got nothing to do with automation. So, please do not see issues of industrial relations and automation in a one-to-one dyadic relationship. That it may happen with mechanization and that it may happen with automation does not mean that it can only happen when there is automation. And that caveat is a very important one. And obviously, then it affects the man-machine relationship and it affects the type of the future of the design of organizations, which is the theme of these sessions. What kind of skill mix you have, what kind of tasks you have will design the jobs for you, will design the upkeep of the jobs for you, will design the upgradation of the skills on the jobs. With that, we are going to stop before we start wrapping up with the what are the positive side of kind of training, and we get into issues of computerization.